Wow.
Appreciate y'all doing it.
Herb, you want to come over here too? Yeah.
Morning.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
So we just had a tour this morning of the Charleston County Detention Facility. As many of you know, we've been reading in the papers about the number of deaths that have transpired here over the last 2 years. A couple of things. This is a complicated issue, and many of the patients, a statistically significant portion of the folks who are here at the Charleston County Detention Center have major mental health issues, and this is not a mental health hospital. That's an issue. We have a growing population here in Charleston County. We're one of the fastest growing areas in the country, and understanding the issues that are behind this. And if you look at the last 2 years, the 7 deaths that have happened over the last 1.5 years or so is higher than what it has been historically. Between 2018, 2019, and 2020, there were only 2 deaths at this facility. And so I support the county councils and the detention facilities effort to have a third party take a look at what's happening here and why. I think it's important to have somebody from the outside. We've got SLED. They've also been in contact with the Department of Justice. Councilman Teddy Pryor has written a letter to the DOJ, which I'm supportive of as well. And having someone from the outside take a look at and understand what is going on here. The other thing that I want to commend Herb Sass and the council on are the raises that they voted on and decided at the end of last year to give to the deputies that are here. They were making $36,000 a year, working in one of the most difficult facilities in the state, these detention centers, and barely able to make ends meet. And so they were able to give a significant raise to $46,000 a year. They are already hiring over 10 folks since the first of the year, over a dozen or so, and so that's going to be better because they are understaffed here, and there are over 1,000 individuals at this facility, and the county is understaffed, and so getting that pay increase is going to be very important. And I want my message today is with the deputies who are here, the staff who are here, Charleston County Council, the residents, the citizens of Charleston County, is that we're going to work together to figure this thing out and be as helpful as we can. The last message I want to leave today is that we're going to be working with the detention facility to find some grant funding to help and assist with ways that we can make the facility better. Something that I've been working on with a lot of different organizations within the Low Country, and my message to them today is that this is important, it is a priority, and we want to make sure that we get all the resources we can. As a state, we only have 300 beds at the Department of Mental Health, yet we have over 5 million people living in the state of South Carolina. And since COVID-19, the mental health issues we're seeing are significantly higher than they ever have been. And this is a huge issue, not just in the Low Country, but across the state and across the nation. And it's something we've got to try to figure out how we can do better and find beds that are available, because this isn't a mental health hospital and it shouldn't be. This should be a place for people who are committing crimes. This isn't a home. This is not a facility or hospital for the homeless either. We've got to figure out how we can address these issues, and the only way that we can do that is if we work together, if we communicate together. And this was a great first step in doing that. We had county council here, we had deputies here, folks from the detention facility, understanding some of the issues that they're facing and how we can work better together to improve the situation. I know that you all are working, also talking about the contract, because it coincides, these deaths started in 2021. They were not previous to that. And so we're looking at all ways in which to make the facility better. And do you want to make a statement? Either of you want to make a statement or take questions?
Well, I just want to thank Representative Mace for taking the tour along with us. As you know, a week ago I stated that I was going to contact DOJ, ask them to come in and do a thorough investigation to let us know what is going wrong, what they need to do to fix this. We're not pointing the fingers at anybody, but in the last 10 years from our last provider, we only had 5 deaths in 10 years. And this when Graziano took over, we've had now 7 deaths in a span of 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. So those are the things you want to look into, because obviously there's a problem. Now, who's to blame? The DOJ will get to that. But I want to thank you again, Representative, for coming down and taking the time out your schedule. You have our chairman there. I thank you for coming along. He came this morning. But this is not scathing on our officers who work here. They do a marvelous job, but they're short-staffed. They're 31% or 39%, I believe it is, down from what they normally should be. So they only got 61%. They need another 39. I think those raises will help, and the starting salaries will help. But we just want to get to the root of the problem, because families want to know answers, and nobody should deserve to die behind a facility when they're here to go to court.
Shoplifting should not be a death sentence. So, Herb, do you want to?
Thank you. I'd like to thank Representative Mace and former Chairman Pryor for being on this tour along with everyone else. I want you to know Charleston County Council realizes this is a serious problem, and we're working hard to work on it with the Sheriff's Office and with Representative Mace's help. We hope we can take care of this. The mental health facilities for the state, only 300 beds. That makes people stay here way too long, and they should not be here for those purposes. So thank you, Representative Mace.
Of course.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Congressman, what was your impression of the inside of the facility?
Well, it's a very clean facility. We went through several different wings of the facility, and I will tell you, you can see it's very orderly from that standpoint. But also the issues we heard today was understaffing. And the raises, that the new starting salary is going to be a great step in the right direction to get there. This is one of the toughest jobs in America right now. And because of the mental health issues we're seeing exponentially increase over the last 2 years since COVID, it's only getting worse. And our deputies, that's not their job. They're not trained for that. And they need extra support from people that have experience in mental health, whether that's counseling or getting more medical staff. Those sorts of things will make a difference, but so too is finding the right location for some of these cases. They shouldn't be in the jail. They should be where they're getting better care for the mental health issues that they're facing. There are some people in this facility that cannot physically take care of themselves. And, so we've got to figure out, how do we find those people a home or a location or a hospital or a place where they can get the care that they need, so they're not stuck in jail for 100 days or over a year. And it's a major issue. And so we want to make sure that the detention facility and the county are getting the support that they need. And if we can't find the funding locally or at the state level, I'm going to do my part to try to find resources at the federal level that can assist Charleston County. It's a huge need right now.
Who told you about the understaffing issue today? You mentioned that came up.
The staff inside explained it. They're 61% staffed, and we need to make sure we can get them to as close to 100% as possible. They've hired about a dozen folks since the start of the year with the new starting base salary. That's a great step in the right direction, but we've got to address the medical staffing issues that are, as we're finding out, and I believe once some of the FOIA information comes out, some of the documentation, that will show that there is also an issue with medical staffing here at this facility. And so that is also going to need to be addressed, and I know that the Charleston County Council has already started having some of those internal discussions, but I'm a person who wants data and I want information. And so today too, I was able to get from other sources the data that only five individuals have passed away here in the 10 years prior to 2021. And so we've had 7 since January 1, 2021 here. That shows statistically, from a data and analytics and research standpoint, that we've got an issue here and we need to address it. And it was good to talk with the chairman, with Herb Sass and Teddy Pryor, also to know that they also are aware and they're looking at ways to, 1, get the information, and 2, talk about finding a solution to this problem.
Representative Mace, hi, I'm with the Postal Courier. Thanks for speaking with us. You mentioned that you support Mr. Pryor's letter
I do.
asking the Department of Justice to launch a pattern and practice investigation of potential civil rights violations here. Will you be putting your name on that letter? Will you sign an additional
I
letter?
support his letter. I'm working on my own letter to DOJ. And again, I'm someone who wants to get information and better understand. I have a better understanding today after having this briefing, after having this tour, of some of the other issues that I was not aware of previous to today, including medical staffing issues. And I know there have been FOIA requests put out about that. That should be coming out. Once they get that documentation together, that'll be information that all of us, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I also think it'll be healthy and important to have a third party take a look at what's going on so that we can make sure that they have the resources that they need, that they can make any modifications or changes to process and policies, or even vendors in this case, as I think will likely be the end sum game here, finding different vendors that can address the needs that are inherent here at this facility.
Was Sheriff Graziano on?
She was not.
Who invited you?
Yes,
Yeah.
Teddy told me he was going to tour, and I said, well, I've got some time. Can we do it Monday morning before I fly out to D.C.? I have never toured this facility, and it was a good opportunity for Herb and Teddy and myself to understand, because one, we're going to be helping write grant letters in support of finding resources for this facility here, number one. Number two, I want to know how I can support Charleston County, but also support the staff and the deputies here.
Yes.
They're doing jobs that they were not trained to do because of the huge needs that are here. And I cannot emphasize enough, if you have 40 to 50% of the individuals here have mental health issues, it's a huge problem. And we need people who are trained and have the kind of background, medical background. Our deputies are not trained to be medical caretakers, okay? And we want to make sure that we're fully staffed on the medical side, and if we need more resources and funding and staff on that side, that I'm as supportive as I can be, because it's heartbreaking to hear these stories of individuals who've passed away here, whether it's suicide or drug overdoses or other means, other issues. We want to address it. And I want to be sure that Sheriff Graziano, is going to address these issues. Because at the end of the day, the buck stops with her.
Yes.
Councilman Pryor, do you have any concerns about the contract with WellPath that was signed a few years ago? It was while the county was under an emergency declaration, and under that case, the county administrator was able to sign instead of the county procurement director. Do you have any concerns about the circumstances that contract was signed under, and the fact that contract was extended multiple times while there were ongoing lawsuits and accusations of neglect?
Well, what we want to do is get to the bottom of it. You know, if they are not providing the proper healthcare services, whether it was signed by the procurement director, whether it was signed by the administrator, it doesn't matter. What we want to do right now is get to the bottom of, are they doing what they're getting paid for, and are the inmates suffering because of neglect, because they're not doing their job. And so I think to point the fingers, who signed it, who didn't, we're not here for that right now. We're just here to find out what went wrong and how to fix what went wrong.
But if they need a new vendor, then we need
Yeah,
to
we
figure
will
that
do
in.
that.
They need to they'll figure that out as well. I think that's important, that they're getting all the information, the county is, to make some decisions in the future about how we remedy the situation.
Congresswoman, do you think that this might be a bigger story about private contractors providing medical services in local county jails and facilities?
Well, this is, to me, the greater story here is the mental health issues that we have. And the statistic I heard this morning was that 40 to 50% at any given time of the individuals who are here have mental health issues. And so that's a huge, huge problem. And it's not just relegated to Charleston County. We're seeing this across the country. And again, our Department of Mental Health has 300 beds for an entire state with more than 5 million people living in it. And so there are a lot of different ways I think we can move forward. But number one, we want to find out what's really going on here. And two, how do we help figure out how we provide solutions? How do we find the money to do that? And make sure that the county and the detention center and all those staff here, that they're supported in their job. We want to make sure that they feel confident in the job that they can do, and they have the resources to do it well.
Yeah, Congresswoman, more than 2 years ago, Jamal Sutherland died in this facility. I remember, you were very outspoken.
Broke my heart.
Following that.
Mm-hmm.
You said you did not want his death to be in vain. As we've been speaking, there have been at least 6 deaths at the facility since, many black men suffering from mental illness. The Department of Justice, investigated
And some women also.
Yeah.
women
Yep.
decided to not bring criminal charges. How is the approach different this time around?
Well, I mean, there have been there have been 6 more deaths since Jamal Sutherland. His story broke my heart, and I've spent time with his family. His parents served our country in the military valiantly, and he didn't deserve to die. And I've been very clear on that. And that's why it's important to me at some point, I want to have a conversation with the sheriff and know what she's going to do and what has happened. I want some transparency. I want some accountability, because at the end of the day, Sheriff Graziano runs this place. She's the one leading the detention center and overall. And so we need to make sure that there's some accountability there as well. And I will continue to have questions, and I've been very open about that with everybody and very transparent. But this is a more complex issue. The more that I learn, the more questions that I have, which is why it's going to be very important when that FOIA request comes through, that we all have that information. And I think we'll have a better understanding of what's going on here once we have that as well. But in terms of civil rights issues, it's something that is near and dear to my heart. I grew up here. I've seen it in the state of South Carolina, where the difference between rich and poor is literally black and white in many of our communities. And it's important to me, as someone who grew up here, that I do my part to try to help those situations where I feel that someone's civil rights have been violated. And that was in the case of Jamal Sutherland, a young man who'd never been arrested before, never been a violent offender, who ended up passing away. And we also, the reason I support Teddy Pryor's letter too, is that if there are any civil rights violations, well, we ought to know about that as well and be able to make decisions going forward. But this is going to be more complex than that, because I think there are a lot of underlying medical issues. Again, the FOIA request will hopefully reveal some of that information going forward as well.
And then you must remember, this is rule of homicide. Okay, so if it's a rule of homicide, that means somebody did something wrong, and somebody's going to be held accountable for the death of this young man.
D'Angelo Brown, was the one that that the coroner ruled was homicide, and so we don't know what happened with Julian Jenkins. This last one being investigated as well. But I'm in touch with multiple agencies. I'm in touch with counsel as well, just to try to figure out what's going on, and then once we know what the problem is, we need to be able to take responsibility for it, and then find a path forward, whether that's resources, funding, more people, more staff, and then particularly more medical staff, because that's clearly, we need more folks to help address the mental health cases that are here.
And we got to look at our judicial system too, because if somebody is in for a bench warrant, it should be within 24 hours seeing a magistrate. This guy died in his jail cell, 6 days waiting to see a magistrate. So that's also important too. So we have to look at all aspects and all angles, because he should have seen a bond court judge within 24 to 48 hours, but he was lying in a cell for 6 days.
Right, and you shouldn't. A death sentence is not the right sentence for someone who stole a vacuum 3 years ago. And I think it comes from a civil rights perspective.
Right.
I think that's what we're getting at too.
Mr. Pryor, when we spoke 36 hours after you said that you were going to write this letter and you asked other counselors to add their names, you said no one had reached out saying they wanted to. Has that changed?
Yes, the chairman reached out to me. He's here. And he says we must look into this. So I appreciate him. And other council members will too. But, this happens so fast. So let's see what goes from here. But Representative Mace, thank you so much.
Yeah,
for
of course. And I have to run. There's no doubt. 7 deaths in the last 2 years. Significantly higher than the last previous decade. So we'll get to the bottom of it, and I'll help them get to the bottom of it. And I have great confidence in the council's leadership to be able to do that.
Thank you.
And I'm going to have to run. I apologize. I have a flight.
Thanks.
Flight
Good seeing you again.
Teddy,
all right.
Good to see you.
All right.
Thanks,
Take care.
All right. Let me know if you need after this.
All right.
Thanks, y'all.
Okay, thank you.